Perks are a core part of the Dead by Daylight experience, dear viewer, and much time has been spent over the years discussing their balance. In more recent times, behaviour have sought to change greater and greater numbers of perks in the hopes of constantly evolving the meta. Now, with almost every set of patch notes, we see more and more perks being adjusted in an attempt to shake things up. In the majority of cases, this involves nothing more than simple number changes. In the 8.1 patch alone, we saw 12 perks receive buffs, and all through the simple act of increasing or decreasing numbers. In some cases, dear viewer, this can be enough and really help perks to shine. In others, however, I'd suggest that more fundamental changes are necessary in order to make certain perks viable. Today, I want to explore some simple perk reworks that seek to make these perks more viable than their current state. We'll start by looking at the survivor perks. If you want to head straight to the killer perks, jump to the timestamp on screen now. Let's start by talking about the perk Quick Gambit, dear viewer. This perk has had a difficult history in game. At its release with Forged in Fog, the range of the perk was so low that trying to get value often led to survivors putting themselves at unnecessary risk. Then, with the 7.5 patch, behaviour increased the range and added an aura reading aspect that benefits the user slightly. These adjustments did a small amount to help, but the perk continues to be overlooked by the majority of the player base for its high risk and frankly low reward. It's for these reasons that I think a more thorough rework could do more to help this perk shine. And what could this rework look like, Cameron? Well, simply, dear viewer, the perk would work in a fashion similar to the perks Blast Mine and Wiretap. After completing enough generator progress, this perk would activate, and the user could apply Quick Gambit to any generator for up to 120 seconds. Now, anytime the user is in a chase, any other survivor working on the generator would receive a bonus to their repair speed. This effect would run out after the timer had expired or the generator was complete. At this point, the user would need to complete another 50% generator repair progress in order to reactivate the perk. This rework hopes to make using the perk less risky and easier for solo queue players to make use of, thanks to the aura reading. Given that proximity to a generator would no longer be needed, players could lead the killer away from repairs and still make use of this perk. In total, this perk rework seeks to make Quick Gambit more consistent, less risky, and easier to use for solo queue players. Next, we'll take a look at the perk Wake Up. This perk has received some slight adjustments over the years, dear viewer, but nothing to make it stand out as a perk. Let's break this down into the three aspects of the perk. First, it reveals the auras of exit gate switches to you. Nice, but whenever the exit gates are powered, you see their positions from anywhere on the map, at any time, regardless of your current state. In order to make good use of this part of the perk, you need to not be paying any attention for a considerable amount of time when the exit gates are powered. Next, other players will see your aura whenever you're opening an exit gate. This aspect was never too useful, but has been made even less so thanks to the solo queue indicators. Anytime you're working on an exit gate, your teammates can see that, thanks to the indicator. Any amount of deduction based on certain clues can also give your teammates an idea of which exit gate you may be working on, and if they're wrong, they can work on opening the other exit gate. So far, this perk isn't shaping up too well. Finally, it increases the speed with which you open exit gates. At most, this can save about 4 seconds. Not especially useful in the average match, and unlikely to make any difference to the outcome of a match in the majority of cases. This leads me to the other use, gate standoffs. If the killer has closed a hatch, having Wake Up can help increase your chances of escape by reducing the amount of time you're vulnerable for. Cool. Yeah, but this is incredibly selfish, and something that Soul Survivor does better. After all that, you may have come to the same conclusion that I have. This perk needs reworking. So, what could a rework look like? Well, this concept turns Wake Up into an information perk that has use throughout a match. After any generator is complete, this perk activates, and the user will see the auras of all their teammates for a short time. Likewise, all teammates will see the user's aura for the same duration. This could be useful for solo queue players who need to coordinate movements, know where a chase is taking place, or even see where other generators are being worked on. It would also indicate to your teammates that you have Wake Up equipped, which is relevant to the next half of this perk. Once the exit gates are powered, you can use Wake Up to open both gates simultaneously, up to a maximum limit. This would reduce the amount of time required to 99 the exit gates by almost half. This time could be used by teammates to search for totems, heal each other, or simply move in for protection hits. The upper limit would be 90%, meaning that at least 2 seconds of interaction would be needed to 99 the affected exit gate switch. Further, given the nature of this perk, having more than one survivor with this perk equipped would be redundant. Therefore, having extra copies of this perk would have a stacking increase to the exit gate opening speed of anyone with the perk equipped. This rework seeks to make the perk more useful throughout the course of a match, and offer a more impactful way for efficient gate opening to take place at the end of a match. Now it's time to talk about the killer perks. Let's start with the perk Leverage. This perk was released alongside the chest, the skull merchant, and is barely even talked about, let alone used. Personally, dear viewer, I've never seen anyone use it in any of my survivor matches, ever. And as a killer, I never even consider it when making loadouts. This perk, in theory, should make healing more difficult after any survivor is hooked. The problem is that it takes too long to build up the tokens that would make it useful, and even when you have built up the tokens, you're not guaranteed that survivors will be healing after a teammate is hooked. In short, if you want to slow down healing, use Sloppy Butcher, Scourge Hook Gift of Pain, or a killer add-on that inflicts Mangled. This perk is never going to be more useful than those perks, and it's for that reason that I believe it needs a rework. This rework concept now allows killers to inflict more punishing effects after a shorter token build-up. First, a killer will gain a token each time they hook a survivor for the first time, similar to the perk No Way Out. Next, each token now allows a killer to inflict Broken on injured survivors anytime they hook a survivor. The choice for killers now would be between slowing healing over a longer duration, or preventing healing altogether for a shorter one. Further, after hooking all 4 survivors at least once, this perk would begin to inflict all healthy survivors with the exposed status effect. Essentially, after some build-up, hooking a survivor would guarantee that all survivors are a one-hit down for a limited time. These changes seek to make the perk a unique and viable alternative to other anti-healing options that simply inflict Mangled and Hemorrhage. Further, the altered token system encourages the spreading of hooks, and allows for the perk to become even more powerful as the match progresses. Finally, we're going to talk about the Doctor perk that everyone forgets exists. Overwhelming Presence. The problem with this perk is that it suffers greatly from Terror Radius syndrome. First, it's difficult to spread your terror radius across the map whilst focusing on chases. This means that the effect of the perk is often not felt by players who can largely ignore it. Second, players rarely even want to complete the relevant action whilst inside your terror radius. In this perk's case, most items are used whilst away from the killer, and players who see this perk in play can simply stop using their items. I guess you could say this perk has an underwhelming presence in most matches. Anyway, I'd argue that this perk needs a rework based on how its fundamental characteristics don't fit the current version of Dead by Daylight. This reworked version sees the perk become a very unique sort of stealth perk with a tracking aspect to boot. First, it increases the range of your terror radius by up to 8 meters. This will make more sense after exploring the other features of this perk. Whilst in your terror radius, survivors will have to deal with 2 issues. Starting with, players will no longer be able to discern distance based on the terror radius. It will always sound like you're right next to the killer, regardless of their distance from you. In essence, the killer's terror radius will act like a very intense lullaby. Players will know that they're at least within a certain range of the killer, but they'll be unable to identify a more specific range, without seeing the killer or their aura. Further, whenever the killer starts a chase, all survivors in the terror radius will scream and reveal their position, allowing the killer to identify survivors that may be hiding or working on generators in their vicinity. This new version of Overwhelming Presence seeks to offer a unique form of stealth through very loud means, whilst also offering an additional benefit to having a larger terror radius. The hope is that this perk would be intense to play against and offer the killer an opportunity to get the drop on survivors, if they play in unpredictable ways. That's it for this one. These are all the suggestions I have for reworking this selection of perks. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment or make a forum post and send a link. Whatever your ideas are, I want to hear them. I don't make this video to declare my ideas as gospel or something, I just hope to maybe inspire some conversations. By discussing our ideas and putting them together, we can get that bit closer to making DBD the best version of itself. Thank you very much for watching, dear viewer, and I hope to see you in the next one.